Hey sis, hey, it is Money Monday and it's me. So at this point, I'm sure you've seen me talking about my light bill, right? And I got sticker shock, sis. I got super sticker shocked. I got a bill and it was for $222 and I didn't like it, right? Because part of it is I don't like for other people to tell me to do with what to do with my money. I like to tell me what to do with my money. So when I saw that bill for 222, I felt bothered. I felt very bothered. So you probably see me posting my light bill in my stories, or you have seen me talking about it, in the comment sections. Okay. So I did a few things and I was able to drastically reduce my light bill to $68 for the month. And it's been like that for the last 2 months since I made these simple improvements. Some of the things that I did, one of the first things that I did, Saisha, one of the first things that I did is the unplugging. I was already doing that, but I think that just moving around and just having like increased responsibility just made me like a little like unconscious of what was going on. So number one, unplugging. The boys know that when we're leaving the home, unplug everything, right? So start there. There are there are large appliances that are plugged in. Those are plugged in, but any small appliances, uh, crock pots, toasters, those little things, that little George Foreman grills, any of those things are completely unplugged. My flat iron, if I am being, not as on it as normally, I may leave that on, and that's like by accident. So there's absolutely no small appliances that are going to be plugged in. The next thing is that power strips. I don't like power strips. I hear people saying that they really like power strips. I only like power strips when I need them specifically, like if I'm working on a project, I need a camera, I need a light, I need to charge my phone, I need all of those things, then I will have a power strip. Other than that, I just find that they're just a huge waste. So I don't use power strips. I think that they make you like a little unconscious about the amount of energy that you're actually using. So I don't use power strips. Um, Natural lighting, that is something that I'm big on. During the day, you can almost come in my home and not see any lights on at all. I like large windows, I like natural light. So that's another way, just not burning up the lights when I don't need them. So I don't. At night, I am more prone to use a floor lamp, one that I can unplug in. So I may need it for the period of time, just for a period of time. And when I'm done with it, before the night is done, I'm going to go ahead and unplug that floor lamp. It's not going to be constantly burning or constantly being plugged in all during the night. Also, call your electrical company. Call your electrical company and find out the lower power wattages rates, like when's the best time to do this particular chore. Therefore, when you're doing it, you are more amped to be using power when other people aren't, so it's cheaper to keep her, if you know what I mean, jelly beans. Right? So that's going to be the time in which I'm going to do my laundry. Also, another thing is I'm more of a pile up clean. I know some people don't like that process. I've seen a few of my friends that likes to wash all during the day, not me. I'm cooking constantly all day long, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's a constant thing. I like, if I live anywhere, it's in that kitchen, right? So I'm not going to be washing those dishes every time someone eats, right? It's going to be single action for me. I'm going to load that dishwasher one time. That's it for the day. One time, completely fully load, right? For that entire day. I'm also going to do it at night when I'm using those lower power wattage rates, right? That's also a behavior that I have. Not turning off not turning, when you leave the house, I see some people doing that. When they leave the house, they turn their AC completely off. And then when they turn their AC completely off, then the power has to like work a little bit harder to come back on. So that ends up costing me more money. Something really silly that I was doing is that I really wasn't conscious of how I was, putting pots and pans on the stove. So I kind of just would just go in and just pop it on the stove, right? I wouldn't think about the size or anything like that. So I did a little bit of research on that very poor habit, and it turns out that I was wasting energy when I do that. So now I'm very conscious that I make sure that the sizing of the pot goes with that particular burner. I was completely unconscious about that. Also, I'm more of a 67, 68 type of girl. If it gets too hot, then I may turn it up just a smidgen more. Mostly though, I'm going to say a large part of the reduction of my light bill had to do with the unplugging, as well as doing more chores during that lower wattage rate. So those are just some things that I did. Bill was 222, and sis, people are like, Shani, that's pinless, that's small. That's because you're thinking about saving $40 a month, $50 a month, $60 a month. But if you did that savings times 12, sis, for the year, you would see that you have an additional $1,500. Maybe you can take that $1,500 and pay your mortgage. One extra payment will change the amortization schedule. Maybe you'll take that $1,500 and pay your car note a 4 months in advance. Maybe you'll take that additional $1,500 and invest it in your business. Maybe you'll take that $1,500 and invest in stocks and bonds, right? So it's not so much, sis. It's not so much about how much you make, sis. It's about how much you keep, and how much you keep that you can be able to beat two things that you always got to be able to beat, sis: taxes and inflation. So I'm not having this conversation by myself. One of my classmates, once he saw me posting my phone bill, he had to come in and let me know what was good, right? And he was kind of like, it was subliminal. He didn't actually say these things, but this is how I felt. This is how I felt. I felt like, you know what, Shani, that little $68 light bill that you have, it's great. But you know what you need to do? You need to see mine. You need to see mine for $9.89. And I'm like, this can't be real, because I was really feeling away. I was feeling away about my light bill. I'm just very proud of this, and I'm still very proud of it. So my classmate, I'm going to bring him on. He is an electrical engineer. He created a company called Solar Saviors, where he installs solar panels. So he's going to talk more about, he's going to talk more about solar panels and how you're able to save on your light bill, where you're reducing it all the way down to under $10. And also, because of his background in engineering, he has way more tips than I can ever had. Those are just some bases. So we're going to bring Ledger into the conversation so that he can add some more value to it. I knew you were going to be laughing. I knew it. I knew you were going to be laughing.
Hey, Shani, how are you?
I'm better now.
Awesome, man.
All right. So before we get into the solar panels, right? Let's just talk about some of the things that you see people doing with energy that is just wasteful. What are some of the things that you notice?
Insulation. First thing, you start from the top of your house and work your way down. So you have to check your insulation in your attic and make sure that you have the insulation, because that actually will help to lower your AC usage. People run their ACs, they should typically run them at about 73 to maybe 78. I heard you mention 67. That's kind of low. You don't really need it to be that low in order to feel the actual cooling that you get from a AC unit. One other thing that I also see is make sure your doors, your windows, everything is sealed in your house so that you don't have air escaping or coming in, because that'll actually affect the way that your AC comes on and off during the daytime. You also have your LED lights. You want to change those out for if you can. It may be a little bit more expensive up front, but it'll actually save you a lot more money in the long run. Typically, what I tell my clients is if they have 2 or more children in the house, to get a solar water heater as opposed to using an electric water heater or a Insta-Hot, because then they can take advantage of the sun in order to actually heat their water in the house. And then also you mentioned the time that you use power. So what you were talking about, I think, is called peak time. We don't really have it as much down south, but it actually is a big issue up north, and that is where the cost of electricity is actually more expensive, and that's usually during the 6 to 10 a.m. times during the daytime, and then from about 3:30 to about 8:30 in the afternoon. So during those times, you want to actually refrain from using as much energy as possible, because then you'll get charged the most for it.
Okay. All right, so those were actually really good. That was, what else I didn't mention? So here's something else. Did I talk about my TV? I didn't talk about my TV. Ledger, do you remember that, Yeah, yeah. So I haven't had a TV in 20 years. You know that about me, right? You know
Yeah,
that's like a
yeah,
thing. And that's like a huge thing. Most people aren't willing to go like that rogue on it, but like, even if you're not willing to just go without a television, I just had like that really horrible semester with Lifetime, and I just let it go. I donated it over to the Goodwill, and that was the
right.
end of my relationship with the television,
I
So I just
understand.
let
I
it go.
understand.
Right. So even just, but, right, maybe you're not going to go to that extent where you're like, okay, I'm going completely without the TV. But during the period of time in which you're not using it, just unplug it, right? So that you're not wasting up that energy, just don't have it sitting there, just constantly just sucking. Another thing is, I change out those filters, right? I change those out very frequently. I change those out once a month, right? Some people say that's a little excessive. I saw your eyes. Yeah, that's a little excessive, but I just don't want to overwork the system,
Right. I
to,
understand. Yeah, of course.
to do what it is that it needs to do, because the harder it has to work, the more it's going to cost me.
Right. Yeah. People with pools put them on timers. Variable speed pool pumps. Those are also things as well, because what you have is a high draw of current whenever your pool comes on and stuff like that. Those are things that you also want to also take a look at, make sure that you don't use those too much as well.
Okay. All right. So that takes care. Do we skip out on anything? I think so. The
Oh,
unplugging for you is huge for me. Is it as huge for you as it is for me?
it is. Also, you want to look at your windows, right? So the sun comes up in the east, it sets in the west, but throughout the day, it's in the south for the majority of the day. If you can put curtains or something to block the heat load on the south or west side of your house, you'll actually save yourself a little bit more energy, because the sun won't be as hot in your house. Therefore, your AC unit won't have to work as hard. So something else to think about.
Changing out your windows, have you seen many of your clients be able to kind of like reduce energy by changing the type of windows that they have as well?
Yeah, that, and also tinting. Putting reflective tint on the windows to actually reduce the heat load on the windows will actually help to reduce the amount of time that your AC unit runs as well.
Okay. So we got a few good tips out there for you guys. The unplugging, the not going without TV, the being very conscious about the times that you're going to do your chores, whether if it's laundry or loading the dishwasher, not duplicating actions. Sometimes people can be like these germaphobes, so they have this constant need to be washing. But when you wash so much, you're using up a lot of water. I also see some of my friends that kind of turn their noses up when they see that I use my dishwasher, right? They feel like I'm not like a real, I'm not a real mom. That's how they treat me. They're like, you use your dishwasher? It's like a real snobbish thing that they do to me. But the thing about it is that you don't waste as much water, right? You don't waste as much water, because sometimes when you're washing the dishes, you have to make a pool of water. Then you're washing it, then the amount of bacteria that's circulating in that water is just
Especially heating.
unbearable for me. Yeah, it's just much. One of
Absolutely.
my friends talked about how she only washes clothes every 2 weeks. Now that I couldn't do. I saw your face. I saw your face.
Okay.
That one I couldn't do. Like, I can deal with the small amounts of bacteria, that may pile up in the kitchen, from the day, from the breakfast and lunch and the dinner. And I have a garbage disposal, so that helps keep down on the amount of trash that's sitting around there. But I couldn't get into washing every 2 weeks. I think because the boys have way too much activity.
Yeah.
So I'm a sensory person. That's another thing. Those plugins. I find those plugins, right? I find those plugins to really,
Those air
I
freshener
saw your
plugins that you're
face.
talking, the air freshener plugins that you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, you got to plug those out. Those work off of heat as well. So you got to take those. Anything that has a heat load in your house is always going to pull a lot of current. So you want to always be cognizant of this.
Yeah. So for me, if I'm looking to make my space a little cleaner, I'm gonna go ahead and mop that floor. I'm gonna use candles. I'm gonna use incense. Um,
Absolutely.
I may use a spray depending on what's in it, as opposed to, plugging things in. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do
Yeah.
as much as I possibly can, because mostly I think people are just not conscious
Mhm.
about this process. So it's kind of like, and then when your bill comes, you're like, what the, but you're
Yeah.
using all of this power that you're not actually using.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So let's get into the solar panel situation. Let's talk a whole lot about that.
Absolutely.
All right, so on average, so that's your light bill. I think we need to drop your light bill in the comment section. I'll do that after the show. But
that was actually a client of mine's light bill that we were able to reduce his electric bill. He was paying probably about $150 to $200 a month, and we were able to get him down to that low.
wow. Wow. Okay, so wait, I typically, hold on, we got one question from Seisha. I typically have wash days each week. Is it more effective to wash once a week or all day or 2 to 3 times for short spurts of time for 2 hours? Ledger, I'll let you go first and then I'll tell you what I do.
I would say it's probably easier to wash 2 to 3 hours as opposed to one long spurt. Just because you're not running your dryer as much to keep it. The thing that takes the most heat, that takes the most load in a house is the dryer. It's not necessarily the washing machine. It's everything that, like I said, everything that provides a heat load has more energy consumption. So your dryer, your coffee maker, microwave, things like that. So running your dryer for a lot longer is gonna suck up a lot more energy. So if you can just do in a spurt, you should be fine.
Oh, okay. So maybe that's like a little adjustment that I can do. So typically I wash one day for maybe about 2 hours. And then I'm air drying a lot of things. Like I
That's
do a
even
lot
better.
of air drying to
That's a lot
reduce
better.
the amount of things that I
Yeah.
need to put in. So my boys have a lot of wash and wear things. I have
Mhm.
what I call as COVID clothes, things that really don't need to be ironed or, they don't really need to be dry. So I'm going to take them and I'm going to hang them up. So maybe that's where I'm compensating for that. So I'm probably only doing the amount of time that it takes me to do it is 2 hours. So you would say once you get into that third, fourth hour, it would be better for you
Yeah.
to spread it out?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And what you're doing with the air drying is even better because you don't have to turn your dryer on. The dryer actually consumes more energy than the actual washing machine. So it's even better for you.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, if you guys got more comments or questions, just drop them in the comment section. Okay, so back to the solar panels. So that was your customer's light bill. So he went from 148 to 200, from 200 to 148, and then down to $9.89.
Yes.
Okay, so on average, Ledger, how long, right? So that's really great. I'm sure a lot of people are gonna like $10. I mean, if my light bill was $10, I would just pay it for the year. I would just give the people, here y'all go. I holla. I would think about it ever again in life.
Absolutely, right?
Except energy doesn't work like that because they're gonna be like, nah, sis. You're
Yeah.
a little short. You went over a little bit. I think you left that flat iron on. So I would try to negotiate something. But so I'm sure a lot of people would think, okay, $10 is great, but how much is it gonna cost me to get these solar panels? How much is it gonna cost, and how long is it gonna take for me to pay the money back?
So what you can think about when you think about buying a solar system for your house is actually paying for your electricity for the next 25 to 30 years up front. If you can wrap your mind around that, initial capital cost is not that terrible. And then on top of that, for the next year and a half, there are tax credits that you can get from the federal government to actually reduce the cost of solar. There's also a couple of programs that are around that'll help you finance it. So typically your solar system is fairly expensive to start. But once you start seeing the savings over time, you'll realize how much you're actually benefiting. So one of the things you also mentioned was inflation. Solar systems will actually lock in the cost of electricity for the next 25 to 30 years. So that inflation cost has adjusted every year. Every time FPL or your local utility decides that they want to raise the cost of electricity, it's locked in for the next 25 to 30 years.
You get to lock it in. So you lock it in for the next 20 to 25 years. So you get to beat inflation when it comes to your electrical bill. So that's a huge thing. So you said expensive, right? You didn't say how much. So,
It varies. It really
okay,
varies.
so give me some variation. Give me some variation for, I want to go ahead and get a solar system for my single family home, 4 bedroom, 2 bath. What are some of the influences of that cost?
So single family home, So take a typical house. You say your bill is $150, like that client that I just told you about. They ended up spending anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000 for the solar system off the top. They were eligible for the solar tax credit of about 26% this year, so they actually reduced that capital cost for them.
Okay, so that was huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was huge. Okay, so now the size of a house is going to make a difference. It's going to change the cost.
Well, not so much the size, more so the electric bill. So what I typically tell my clients before they decide to move to solar is that, hey, let's do everything we can to reduce your overall electric bill. So I take a look at your house and then say, all right, we come out, we actually hook up a data logger to the house and see the electrical needs, see what the capacity is, monitor it for about a week just to see the energy usage of the homeowner. And then we come back and say, all right, well, look, client, you're paying $80 a month for your system, for your electric bill. We can reduce it by 50%. But first, before you do that, here are some measures that you should take so that we can reduce your overall cost, reduce your overall system size, so that way you're not coming out of pocket that much for your solar system.
Okay, so the first thing you're going to do, all right, so hold on. We got a question from Eli. Is it beneficial to have the electric company install the metering devices? They're used to turn off certain applications during the peak hours, and they'll offer a credit on your bill.
The short answer is yes. It does help. You know, if they can turn off certain devices in the house to reduce the electrical load and help your electric bill, then why not let them?
What was the long answer? I know that face.
The electric company is not in a business of saving you money. They're in a business of making money from electricity.
So
do all you can to reduce the load yourself, or rely on the electric company to do it for you.
okay, because once they, I see you trying to, don't code with me, okay? Don't code, okay? Give my people the information. All right, so you're saying the more that you can influence your light bill independent of your electrical company would be better for you, because them having influence will give them some level of control as well as leverage. So it would be better for you to reduce independently do the things that you can do rather than relying on their systems to assist you with doing that.
That's the PC answer. Yes, absolutely.
Got it. That's funny. All right, so okay, so that answered that question. I was gonna ask another question back about the solar panels. Okay, so it takes you about 20 years to pay for it, but it gives you the opportunity to lock in your electrical bill. You'll see it shrink down to the $9. And then you get these tax benefits for investing in solar energy, which is actually huge for you and your taxes, because I told you two things you got to save on is that inflation and that taxes. So in this way, it is working. The other question I was going to ask is, how do I know if I'm getting ready to install solar panels, like if I'm working with a solid company? Like, this isn't something that I know, I didn't learn it in school. So how do I know that I'm not being duped? How do I know that what you're telling me is actually going to be what it is? So what are some ways to identify I'm connecting to a good solar panel company?
First of all, you got to ask them what kind of panels are they installing. Make sure that the equipment that they're putting in is good, solid equipment. You can verify that just by going on the different sites and checking them out. One of the other things I tell clients to do is actually get a guarantee from the solar company that's putting in solar. Make sure that when they come to do the work, they are the people that are doing the work and they're not subcontracting it out to another company. And have them put in a maintenance plan for you. Have them put it into your contract. That way you can benefit from it 3 or 4 years later on down the line when your system needs some type of servicing. Most importantly, I would tell my customers is when they design the systems for your house, have them give you some type of guarantee in writing that the system will produce exactly what it will, or something close to that. That way you won't be stuck with a debt that is not saving you money, because I've seen that as well.
that would be one of the ways, so you also were talking a little bit about being able to get, so like if you're finding, so I'm liking the cost of this. So one, the inflation part, I'm liking the tax benefits that's coming with this. I'm liking that you can qualify whether or not if these are good panels or if I'm just being duped as a consumer. We talked about some special programs, like if you cannot afford them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
We mentioned some of them, different programs that you can apply for based on your municipality. And you were kind of saying you didn't really like the programs, is what you were saying?
Well, some of them, yeah. And so when you decide that you want to move with one of those co-ops or group buying programs, some of the things that you should actually take into account is that, later on down the line, say you go into a group buying, like there's a couple of them that are out there, you want to make sure that you have somebody that's going to guarantee to come out there and repair it, because typically these groups, they drive the cost of solar down, and it's not competitive for the contractors to come out and do any work. So they don't necessarily want to come back and do any service work later on. Those same contractors typically don't use people that are staffed. They usually subcontract it out to other people or other installers or other workers, and they don't have the reliability. So you want to make sure when you're group buying that you have those stipulations put into your contracts so that you can get the best deal.
Okay. So when you're working with them, you got to look out for subcontractors, and because of they are really buying down the cost for the install, you're not really getting the best service relationship with the installation company. You see this, so you guys see this engineer, he's very coded in his language, I gotta really get in there and say, what you say? I know. All right. So, okay. So
drop out a website. You mentioned programs that are available. There's a website that you can check out as a homeowner. It's desireusa.org. That's DSIREUSA.org. And that actually, you put in your zip code and it'll tell you the different programs that are available for your area, municipality, which you can take advantage of, because a lot of these cities now are giving grants as well as rebates for energy upgrades, energy efficiency, in order to make your house better. Solar is included in some of them as well. So that's desire.usa.org.
Okay. Okay, we'll drop it in the comment section for those of you that are interested in getting solar and you're interested in getting some being a part of the co-ops. But if you are going to join some of the co-ops, you want to stipulate in your service agreement kind of what your maintenance plan is going to be like. Am I getting into a relationship with a subcontractor, because a subcontractor could completely, just be a sub. He's not the actual contractor, that's going to be responsible for guaranteeing the work. Okay. I think I'm feeling like we covered. Did we miss anything? Is there something else that you wanted to add? I know we talked about the human responsibility, and then we talked about solar panels, the cost of it. So on average, it's like a $20,000 to $30,000 investment. Yes. One that you can be able to write off. You can also get involved in co-ops and have the opportunity to really lock in your electrical. You were thinking a thought? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so one thing I didn't mention is that you actually increase your property value without increasing your property taxes as well. Nice. When you add solar to your house. So something to consider for those people.
Okay, there's always that one thing though. Well, I know it, right? Because we say that about pools, right? We say that about pools, and then people get there and they're like, I never cared about the pool, and then they don't want to pay more. But I'm not really predicting that that's going to happen with solar panels.
No, I haven't seen that as far as
you haven't seen it kind of like. Yeah, right. They don't kind of like blow it off like with the pool. They're like, my kids don't swim. I'm not paying extra.
So that solar panels are something that you'll see every month. They'll come back and remind you every month, everything. You'll see it on your electric bill. You'll be like, well, I'm glad this is a good investment. I've had clients that are like, hey, my bill is $14, and that's great.
All right, so Ledger, what happens? Because I'm one of these people, I'm cis, what happens if cis would want to take, I'm finished with this house, I've had about enough of it, I want to take my solar panels with me. What? I saw that face.
You can do that.
Yes.
Yeah, why not? You just come on. We do it all the time. You take them off, put them in a trailer, take them where you want, put them back up. I mean,
Oh,
it's not a permanent install because you got to think people will re-roof their houses at some point. So we do take them down. We take them down and we
oh, oh, so
yeah
these things have a travel plan. I like
yeah
that. A little reward system, a little travel plan. Okay, so I could take them with me, but what about the sizing? Like, I'm moving from one space. This house is way bigger than the other, so I probably
okay.
have to what?
So one thing about these systems nowadays that are being installed is that they're modular, right? So you can always add on more as you go. So say you take your system off of your roof and you move to someplace else, it doesn't meet the needs of the house there. You can actually add additional panels and what we call a micro inverter or an optimizer to the back of the actual panel, which will allow you to increase the system size. So you get added benefit.
I'm with it. I'm with it. All right, sis. Well, I think that we covered all of the ground, right? In some of the air. Right. So I'm hoping that you guys were able to tune in and grab some of the tips on how to reduce your electrical bill. I hope that you look at that in the comment section if you are thinking about solar panels, and look at just some of the co-ops, getting some of the information. And what is all of this about, Shani? What is all of this about? The more money that you have access to, the more money that you can invest. The more money that you can invest, the more that you increase your choices. And everything is about increasing your choices. Where you take your children to school, where the neighborhood, the car, the therapist, you name it. Alrighty, so I hope that we have added some value to your purse or your wallet in this case, right? But if I didn't, right? I'm gonna pay you some money. Now you know my machine, it acts a little ratch, it acts a little ratch, sis, and I fixed it and I even ordered another one. So I'm gonna complain. But here we go, sis. If you don't feel like you had a really good day and no one didn't come up to you and give you some money, honey, I'm gonna change that for you right now. I'm gonna change that for you right now. So I want you to open up your spiritual purse. I want you to open up your actual purse. I want you to open up your spiritual bank account. I want you to open up your actual bank account, because I'm about to send you some money so that you can feel richer, because every time that I connect with you, that's how I feel, sis. So I just want to reciprocate. That's it. You ready? Now for that stink, don't judge me. You ready? Whoa! Whoa! It totally worked. It totally worked. All right, sis. So I hope that I have added some value to your Monday ledger. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you
some
for
of
having
those
me.
tips with me. I'm going to blog about it. I'm going to continue to talk about it because I want people to have more money so that they can have more choices. Thank you for sharing space with us. We dropped your phone number. We're going to drop that website as well as your website in the comment section. Until next time, do something that's going to add value to your wallet.